Hello and welcome to Wild Owl TV. Welcome to the first video diary of 2019. So I obviously have been off air for a little while. I've been posting videos. I haven't stopped. There's been such a lot of work to do. So I hope you've been enjoying some of my archive video. I invested in a new iPad Pro, a new GoPro camera, and things like that through the winter. And quite frankly, I haven't really stopped working, but of course it's not always possible to do these sorts of broadcasts. Plus I get winter blues, and I now understand why it is that sometimes I get my words muddled up, because I've got hemochromatosis, which basically is an iron overload disorder, which it affects your memory and stuff like that. So I got a great excuse for that. However, that's not going to stop me doing these videos, but I have got little prompts here now just to remind me that what I've said and what I haven't said, because I do have a habit of repeating myself. Anyway, it's good to be back. It's a lovely day today. Look at that sky, absolutely stunning today. And I know that lots of you enjoyed the garden video diaries, so I'm kind of trying to do be all things to all people, but I do my best. Now, first and foremost, today is the start of National Nest Box Week. It happens to be Valentine's Day as well, but forget about things like that. It's National Nest Box Day, National Nest Box Week. What does that mean? Well, it basically means it's the time of year that conservation groups remind everybody to clear out their nest boxes that they've already got in their garden, and maybe to put up some new nest boxes. So, looking at my notes, why do we put nest boxes up for birds? Well, the reason is that in urban areas there is the capacity for lots of birds to breed, and there's lots of foliage around where birds can, in a lot of cases, find food, depending on how those areas are managed. But there's not always hollows for birds like blue tits and great tits. So what we're effectively doing by offering nest boxes, particularly the ones with holes in them, is to offer hollows for some of the hollow nesting birds, like the little blue tits and great tits. Where do we put them? Well, let me just show you where I've got my blue tit boxes. So let's take you over to the first one. Now this box, this tree has been, I've pollarded the tree in the winter, which is why there's nothing on there, but a lot of it was going in the pond. So this is the box that I've got in here. Now this box is actually a box which has, of course, the hole in there, which is there designed for the cavity nesting blue tit or great tit. A lot of the boxes on the market only have 28mm holes in them, and when you buy a box, try and buy one with a 32mm hole diameter, because that would mean that a great tit can get in there as well as a blue tit. The 28mm holes are just a bit tight for great tits. So this is the larger size, so either species could use this box. So I've got a few boxes around the garden. Now this box is facing northeast, southeast. I think that's probably facing east, this particular one. And whenever you put a box up, that's where you want to be facing the box, northeast or southeast, because that's away from the prevailing weather. And that's the same for pretty much for owl boxes and things like that, where you can. The only situation where you wouldn't necessarily worry about that is if you were putting a box in a woodland where there was woodland cover. So the birds are already checking this box out, and hopefully they'll use this one. But I do have other backup boxes. Now, if I take you down towards the house, you'll notice on the back wall of the house is another box. Now that one is also a 32mm hole. I have to be honest that I haven't been back up there to look inside that box for a few years now, but it was used a couple of years ago by great tits, and they'll take out any nest material that's in there. But also I have another box here on the side of the wall which has never been used, and I'm going to move that one, put it out the front, because I think that one of the reasons it's not being used is because it's facing west, and it's just not an area that's near hedges or anything like that. I think the blue tits are using other boxes, and it just doesn't seem to be very popular. I don't see them around it very much, so we're going to do something about that. I'll probably do that after I've done this video. I'll move that box and put it on the front of the house, where in the past they have used boxes. There's also another box I've got which has got holes in it for cavity nesters, but this box is actually a sparrow nester, which isn't commonly one that you'd put up in your garden. And this one's never been used by sparrows, but it is just to show you that it is possible to put up a box for communal nesters, because sparrows would normally nest communally, unlike blue tits and great tits that will just nest as one pair in a box. So what this box has got, it's got a whole entrance there, and then a nesting chamber, and then another chamber, a separate chamber here with the entrance hole on the side, and then a top chamber here. And these are all individual chambers. There's 3 chambers in this box. Now, in theory, sparrows might use it. I don't think they will here, because it's not in a very good place. It needs to be in the hedge, really. But the blue tits have been checking out this hole regularly. And so I think that it may well get used. Just one of those chambers may well get used. It kind of needs to go in the hedge, really, because that would be much better. But it needs to be up a bit high in the hedge. And I do have lots of house sparrows here, but most of them, quite honestly, are happy nesting in our houses, because where I am here, a lot of the houses are older houses, and you can get underneath the roof. And at the front of the house, not necessarily where I'm showing you here, but at the front of the house, there is actually access under the roof, and the sparrows nest there every year, as they do in various houses along the ridge here, where we've got the older houses. So let's have a look at my notes again. Hard times. My brain isn't as a speaker. Anyway, I'm getting by. Where to put them? Clean out old boxes. That's right, yeah, clean out old boxes. Now, cleaning out old boxes is something that on National Nest Box Week, if you've already got boxes up like I have here, I did mine a month or so back, now's the time to actually get up a ladder and clean them out. Now, you don't have to do anything other than empty out all the old nest material. It just saves the birds using up all their energy to do that. Use a face mask. You need to use like a dust mask when you do this, because there are mites in that will still be in that nest material. And the reason why the birds won't want to use that nest material for a second year is because it's full of parasites, and they don't want to be laying eggs and hatching young in a nest that's already a home to a whole load of things that could potentially kill them. So that's why we clear out the nest debris from last year. The blue tit then will spend quite a few weeks going in and out of the box, pecking away and getting rid of all the little things that we can't see with our eye, but they can see. And then once it's in the bird's mind spotlessly clean, they'll then start bringing in new nest material, and the process will start. Now, if you want to keep an eye on what's going on, you can of course put your box somewhere which is in a suitable place where you can see it, and I'm lucky here. I'm always looking out the window, of course, and out in the garden I pretty quickly realise where they're going to be nesting. But you can also put up cameras in your box, and you can get the little mini cameras, but this CCTV system that I use here in the Wild Owl Garden is made by Sansco. You can get them from Amazon, and it's brilliant. It's high definition, colour, infrared, and this little camera here will actually squeeze into a nest box, and it's got a wide field of view. So my sort of 8 camera system was about £200, but as I say, you don't have to spend necessarily that much. But having a camera inside your nest box is brilliant. There's cheap cameras that will plug straight into the back of your television, but if you want one with a hard drive and the facility like I have to lie in bed on a night time, look around at the cameras on the iPad and see what's going on in the garden, it's really, really handy. So good idea to have that in, and you can enjoy the birds, but you can also see what's going on. Now, when it comes to feeding the family, once you've got your boxes up, and we'll come on to the other types of boxes in a second, the other types of nesters you can put up, but in terms of the tit boxes, which most people get success with, when the birds eventually choose a box and they start to use it, you'll see them going backwards and forwards with nest material and lots of activity around the box, the pair bonding between the pairs. Eventually the female will start to lay eggs. And she'll lay eggs and then carry on going around feeding, and then she'll lay another egg, and she won't sit on those eggs until they've all been laid, and then she'll start to sit on them, and that's when the eggs start to develop. And the idea of that is that all the chicks pretty much hatch out in a very short period of time, and then they can all fledge in a fairly short period of time. So it just narrows that window down, which is quite different to what happens with owls, which we'll talk about in a second. So, just change hands a minute, my arms go, I'm out of practice, aren't I, having holding my camera in the garden. So, with these hemochromatosis, wonderful thing. This is my problem at the moment, just bear with me a second. Yeah, I remember what it was now. once the young hatch, then the adults will then really step up the feeding situation. And what they will do, blue tits and great tits feed their young caterpillars. They need food that's rich in protein and obviously has hydration in it, because the chicks can't go out and get a drink for themselves. So that's why locally, a lot of the plants you'll have around the garden, you'll see the blue tits and the great tits when they have young in the nest going around there trying to find these bugs. Now the thing is, obviously that's going to have a hit on the moth population and the butterfly population in theory. So what I do is I feed my wild birds this time of year live mealworms. The live mealworms increases the chances of the birds having been healthy enough to breed. And I'm looking at the sky because I've got some buzzards up in the sky because they're displaying as well. I'll tell you what, let's just have a little bit of a digress here a little bit. Let's just get into the viewfinder. There we go. Let's show some buzzards. These are the buzzards that nest over at Ridge Woods. See if we can zoom in on them. Where are they? There they are up there. There you go. So this is common buzzard. Is that focusing, or is it just my eyesight? There we go. Common buzzards are actually displaying. This is a time of year you'll often see birds of prey displaying. Sparrowhawks will be displaying as well. Goshawks over the Forest of Dean. It looks like it's 3 buzzards. My viewfinder's not great on this camera, but yeah, it looks like 3 buzzards, and they're just basically sorting out who the pair is that's going to nest this year, you know, in the woods. As you can see, a bit of behaviour going on with these birds. Wonderful birds, buzzards. But watch out when you watch birds like this, because sometimes you might see 2 buzzards and maybe something like a red kite or a peregrine or even a sparrowhawk or something, because birds of prey often interact with each other, not necessarily friendly. And as you can see, there's interactions going on here with these common buzzards. So this is all about sorting out territories. The owls have been hooting and screeching over the last few months, and we know that they've been sorting out their territories, and that's all pretty much quieting down now. But for these buzzards, they breed later, and so this is the time of year when you get this behaviour. So on a lovely day like this, it really is a great day to look for raptors. If you have the time, go to New Fancy. I must get there myself. I never really ever get out to look at these birds, always in the garden or working. But just amazing. There we go, common buzzard for you. There you go, little distraction there. Let's get this zoom out. There you go. So what I was saying about mealworms. So what I do is I provide mealworms. Let me show you mealworms, just in case you're not sure what I'm talking about. We're not talking dead, dried mealworms here. We're talking, yes ladies, live mealworms. Now these are cold, so they're not very lively, but trust me, they are live. The amount of people that say, would you like to feed the birds? Would you like to feed Robin right, Robin left? Oh, I'd love to. And then you get the mealworms out and they say, oh, I'm not touching that. And it's the only way you're going to be able to do it. So these mealworms are gold dust for birds. It effectively is lots and lots and lots of caterpillars. And what I do every spring is I start to feed the birds these. It helps them with their health, and it then of course becomes very valuable food for their fledglings. And you'll find that once you start feeding these to the birds, they'll come literally knocking on your door asking for them. So thoroughly recommend offering live food. Maybe not quite just yet. I'm just kind of got these birds in training at the moment, but certainly once you're getting into late April and May, in the height of the breeding season, that's really when it's a really good idea to start to buy some of those. They're a bit pricey, but really, really worth the enjoyment that they'll bring you, and they certainly help the success rate of fledglings, because there's all sorts of factors that can affect whether your nest of blue tits or great tits will actually survive, whether it's rain washing caterpillars off of foliage, or whether it's insecticides around the area being used by other people. There's all sorts of factors, you know, lack of food, lack of habitat. So live mealworms, even if it's just a dozen a day you give them, if the blue tits are taking them, then it will be helping them. But trust me, everything will want them, because everything at that time of year is breeding birds. So how about other nesters, the open nesters? Well, let me show you what I've done in my little workshop here. This is used to be Jazz's aviary, my tawny owl, and actually now it's I feed the mice here on the floor every night. I'll do a video on that because they're hilarious. But look what I've done is I've put this nester in. Now That's the entrance door, and that's the nester. And I do close the door at night, of course, and the birds could technically get in, but I've got a second nester here. This is a teapot nester, and this is basically aimed at robins or wrens. And what I've got here is I've got a cat flap, and as you can see there's a gap there which I leave open, which means a robin or a wren can get into this shed, and they can then get up into the nester. And if they find this, they'll love it. It's perfect. So if you have a shed or even a garage and you know that the birds can come and go, then it's worth putting up some kind of open nester. This is a quaint Wildlife World teapot, but you can do a wooden one. It doesn't really matter. Any old, even as a little bucket or something, it doesn't really matter. The birds don't care what it looks like. As long as it's just a place where they can make their nest, they'll bring in material and make their own nest. In theory, they could nest on top that brush or along that shelf. You know, it doesn't really matter. But the main thing to remember is that they have access, and what a lot of birds like is two means of getting in and out. So that if I was to stand and block that entrance, the bird can go out another way, and that's just sort of always worth remembering if you ever put a nester inside a building. And I know that some of you that I know have had robins in particular nesting in garages and sheds and things. I had the Rennie in the shed. So there's another type of nester for you. Then of course, not forgetting your blackbirds, because blackbirds of course will make nests. Now blackbirds will nest pretty much anywhere which they feel they can make a nest, like, you know, put a nest on. And this is where your hedgerows come in. Now I'm quite lucky here in the garden, because we've got this laurel here. I've also got honeysuckle. I've cut a lot of it back now down there. I've planted beech this year, which is going to gradually grow. And of course, the best area of my garden, there's hawthorn and laurel there, but the best area is here. And this is where you can encourage other birds to nest. So what I've done is I've put a predator fence in this winter. This predator fence is all the way along the garden, but I've also planted hedgerow. So I've got new hawthorn, blackthorn, sloes, and guelder rose and dog rose, all sorts of stuff there. So I can't wait for that to start growing up, because that will increase my hedge along the garden. It also means that I'm in control of my hedge. My neighbours are brilliant and they're not going to be taking this hedge down, but I don't want to risk anybody ever coming in to the house next door and then saying, oh, let's get rid of that untidy hedge and putting fence in there, because that would kill the garden, well, as far as those birds are concerned, because it really is a wonderful habitat. Bats use it and all sorts. So what I've done is I've got this net in, but here I've laid, as you can see, I've laid down lots of branches from the trees, and there's black bramble twigs, all sorts of things. And I'm already seeing that's a blue tit. Oh, there's that great tit. I'm already seeing dunnock and other birds coming into this area, which are obviously sussing out. Wrens will nest in here. There's a log pile there, so that's another good thing. So blackbirds will make their own nests, and they will be looking for places where they can put a nest. They'll nest on top of a post or in a corner, as long as it's out of sight. And here, this is actually a blackbird nester, which gives like a flat space for the blackbird to lay its nest, but it's a bit exposed, and I wouldn't want to be a blackbird making a nest there right now. I've cut back this wisteria, which is one of the reasons it's exposed, so I'm probably going to move that. So right then, what have we got there? Oh yeah, that's the other thing to mention, is that when you get to May, I'll do a reminder about this, but once the birds do have their young and they have fledglings, blackbird fledglings on the ground being fed by parents, starling fledglings, all those sorts of things, that's the time that many of them get taken by predators. And without wishing to keep on about cats, I know some of you cat owners probably think, here he goes again. The fact of the matter is that at that time of year, in May and June perhaps, the cats do kill a lot of young fledgling birds, so keep that in mind, okay? Magpies do as well. I've had that blackbird nest was raided by magpies, at least, well, I've had nests raided by magpies 3 or 4 times over the years. So, you know, they try again, the birds will try again, but it's such a shame when they put such a lot of effort into into raising a family, and then as the family is just about getting close to fledging, they get spotted. So hopefully your birds will, like blackbirds, will nest in a sensible area. But if you see them nesting and you think it's a bit vulnerable from above, don't forget that most things are looking at them from above, then put something over the nest so that the bird, not the actual right on top of the nest, but over the top, maybe about a foot over the top of the nest, so the blackbird can come and go, but anything above can't see the nest from above. So that'd be a good tip to do. So to finish off, we mentioned it's National Nest Box Day today, and this is Jazz's aviary, my tawny owl, as you can see here. And just a reminder, this owl is very dangerous, however, only to everybody else but me. Just knock on the door. Okay, so whenever I hoot, the dog over the back barks. So this is Jazz. Now, you've been doing something, haven't you, Jazz? I mentioned that lots of birds, as I say, lots of birds, well, they've been preparing for the breeding season since December. You know, we think that spring starts in, I don't know, April, May, but it doesn't. Birds have been preparing since before Christmas, and I've been watching them in the garden, pair bonding and things like that. And of course, tawny owls are early breeders, and tawny owls are sitting on eggs around the country already, including this one. Hello. So what have you been doing then? Have you been laying eggs? So you've been hooting at me for the last month or so. You're not even sat on this one, darling. Look. So that's one of her eggs. She's obviously on her own, so these eggs are infertile, but she's laid the last couple of days. Owls lay every couple of days. That's this there, my darling. There you go. Have it back then. Stick it under there. So what she's doing, she's sitting on eggs that are never going to hatch, but she's doing what comes naturally to her. And it just really is a reminder that this is an early breeding bird, the tawny owl, but other birds will be laying eggs fairly soon. Let's see how many eggs have we got there. How many eggs have we got under there, my darling? Oh, you got 2. Okay, you're going to lay another one soon then. Is there 2 or 3? No, there's 2. There you go. You're going to lay another one. So what she's doing is incubating them. It's great for me because it means that she's quiet, aren't you? We don't have to close the door on you every night. So I'm going to let you do your thing. I'm her mate, so she's very happy for me to come in and say hello to her. There you go. And she'll just sit down on them. She's actually, the feathers have come off of her breast and it's exposed bare skin, which is what is known as a brood patch, and that's what she's positioning those eggs under at the moment, just to get them in the right place to regulate the temperature. But what she'll eventually do is she'll give up and you get bored quite quickly, don't you? And she'll give up and she will eat the eggs and use all the goodness in those eggs, all the calcium and other stuff, for herself, and then maybe she might lay a second clutch. That's what you did last year, wasn't it? And the barn owl will be laying eggs soon as well. Both captive birds, of course, both retired educational birds. So I'm going to leave her in peace, and I'm going to end this Wild Owl TV video. Hope you found the content interesting. Let's get back out of the aviary. So thanks for watching Wild Owl TV. I will endeavour to do regular video diaries. I'm sure I will. As I say, I'm always multitasking and dealing with sort of different barriers as a result of things I got to personal problems. But anyway, they're not as big as a lot of people. Some people have some really serious things. Luckily, what I've got is mostly containable, I think. Yeah, keep it going. Share the love. Tell people about Wild Owl TV because the page doesn't seem to grow. I know I've got a lot of followers that enjoy my posts, but the page doesn't seem to. I mean, I've got 741 followers at the moment, and it's not really moved for quite a few weeks. And this is a page for wildlife enthusiasts in South Gloucestershire and Bristol, and of course it's aimed at a level which is very much enthusiast level, and you know, if you don't know simple things, then we can share that amongst us, and I can hopefully point you in the right direction, so you can increase the amount of wildlife that comes into your garden, and we can in South Gloucestershire look after the wildlife that we've got, because we've got some great stuff in South Gloss. So I hope you enjoy everything I'm doing. I'm always happy to get feedback, and trust me, it really does inspire me. I know not everybody's happy to put anything, but then I'll speak to somebody, I'll bump into somebody somewhere and they say, oh, I love your page and stuff. So I didn't even know that. So it's nice to have it. It keeps me going, gives me a bit of energy when I am feeling a bit down or lacking energy or wondering why I do this, which isn't very often, but it happens. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to stop wittering away like I always do and see you again on Wild Owl TV. Bye.